Welcome to the Freedom CEO podcast. It's about becoming the chief decision maker over your life in order to step into a life of freedom. From business, health, wealth, charity, and giving back to just doing life on your own terms. I am your host, Shay Mbediata. I am an award-winning activist, change maker, and a multifaceted impact entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in business, philanthropy, and health and wellness. In this space, I'm going to be bringing you insights, not just from me, but from incredible thought leaders around the globe to help you start making decisions towards living a life of freedom so you can live a life you love. Are you ready, guys? Because we are going all in. He's back on the Freedom CEO today. Dr. Ben Galyardt is the founder and CEO of F8 Well Centers and the Galyardt Method. He is a world-recognized speaker in neurofeedback and brain regeneration. He was an expert in functional medicine before it was even called functional medicine. If you haven't tuned into our previous convo, I encourage you to check out episode 26, where Dr. Ben and I dive into how many disease diagnoses are actually states of being, which can be reversed through diet, habits, and mindset. But today, Dr. Ben is back to further this idea and this discussion around how to get in tune with our bodies. And he shares how we can actually slow down the aging process that many of us spend thousands upon thousands of dollars on trying to achieve this. I think you're going to love this episode.
We had more we wanted to talk about, and so I had to bring Dr. Ben Galyardt back onto the Freedom CEO podcast. So this is going to be part two, the continuum of our conversation that we had just about a month ago. So Dr. Ben, thanks for coming back on the show so soon.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me on. This is so great. I love connecting, especially with somebody that is so into health and wellness and, the toxins and how can we live better and life, get that life expectancy out as long as we can, all those fun things you're into. And I just love hitting all those topics.
Thank you. Well, after we had our conversation, I was online doing more research on like the brain mapping that you do and the Galyardt Method, and understanding there's a huge benefit to being able to work with you online, which is so incredible. Yeah. But we still need to be in the physical for some things. So I was thinking about how can I line up a Colorado trip and get down to see you, which could probably happen before the end of Q3. Nice. I have one of my best friends there with 5 nieces and nephews. And so any excuse I can to go see them. And now I get to come see you. So I am planning on doing that. And I look forward to connecting with you in person on that. As we were thinking of like our conversation we had before, so dynamic around, yes, toxins and pushing these things out of our bodies, being aware of what we're putting in. And not just in our bodies, but on our bodies, talking about diabetes and how we can have changing just even our diet that can support the reverse effect of that. We had a great conversation around it's a state versus a disease and reframing some of that. So if you have not tuned into our conversation from earlier, make sure you do that because there's so much value in that conversation. We're just going to kind of flow into the next, which
we did a lot of things, didn't we?
We really did. Yeah. It was a very powerful hour. There's a lot of value, a lot of goodness. And Dr. Ben goes into some tangible steps as well that you can be taking in your life to start making some of these changes. So highly encourage you to check out that episode. And today I said, why don't we go into something a little more trendy that's being spoken about? And one of those topics is around the anti-aging process. And it kind of feels like it doesn't matter how old you are. I'm 38 and I've been getting Botox since I'm 25. And you can see, I always say when you can do laundry on my forehead, that's how I know when I need to go get my injections done. Okay. And Dr. Ben can see on the screen, I've got, you can definitely do laundry on my forehead. But I'll tell you, after removing my breast implants, as we talked about the last time, in March of 2022, learning some, I think, very negative effects that lovers of Botox like myself and fillers can have in the body. The last time I had injections was in November of 2022. And I have to tell you, it's been really difficult for me to go, okay, is it really that bad? Can I just do that? I removed my implants. Like, that was the worst thing, but we're constantly bombarded today, right? Around looking younger, stopping the anti-aging process. And we've really normalized this culture, but we've not talked about what is the real cost of trying to slow down this process unnaturally.
Yeah. Well, and it's almost two different thoughts here. One is, hey, I want to look younger. I want to, I'm a social media influencer. I'm a, whatever, I've got to look, even just some people that are TikTokers, they love getting on TikTok and doing their dance and whatever, and showing off their big round booty and whatever, whatever people are doing nowadays. And then you've got the other side, which is going to be kind of the biohackers and the people that are like, I'm going to do red light therapy and I'm going to, take these injections and this, these supplements and medications and all this stuff because I want to live to 120. And so, it's a little bit of both. We've got those that are like, okay, yeah, sure, I'd like to look good now, but man, I really want to look good when I'm 120. And then those that are like, put this, stuff in my lips and my cheeks and breasts and tummy tucks and, and change my body so that right here, right now, I want to look the part. And so, what it comes down to is, why does the body age? And aging, some of that is just time, but other parts of it is what we're doing to our bodies. I love the thought, you've been around smokers and you've seen, a 70-year-old smoker and they look like they're 90. And it's just, that smoke, it's free radicals, it's causing more aging. Why some people are just prone to getting forehead wrinkles and that's, genetics and some of those things, but other people, they're aging faster. They're aging at an accelerated rate. And I look at it like this, I kind of almost like immune system, okay, what do I need to do to help my immune system work better? Well, I almost reverse engineer it from what is causing your immune system to not work right.
Right.
And so then, and the same thing can be done with, how can we slow down aging? Well, what is causing, that aging to go faster? So the same thought on the immune system. Okay, well, poor sleep and you're stressing. If you're really stressed out, that's going to affect your immune system. If your blood sugar is jacked and bouncing all over the place, if you have infections in the gut, if you've got all these things that are causing that immune system to not work as well, so then we say, okay, well, how are we going to sleep better? How are we going to affect our blood sugar and stabilize that? How are we going to get our adrenals better? How are we going to slow down just our outward stressors in our world? We could move to Costa Rica. We could do all types of different things that can affect that stress, hopefully in a positive way. So the same thing can be said for our aging process. Is okay, well, what is causing it to speed up, and can we do opposite of that and slow it down?
Yeah. And, I'm just playing devil's advocate because, for me personally, I'm very much in support of looking at, yes, what can I be doing? And, even we spoke about this even the last time, like, making sure just like you're hydrated. But like, for me, that's not enough. It's not just about drinking enough water. It's the quality of your water, because that matters, right? And looking at what's actually in your water, the lead, the fluoride, the different toxins that are in your tap water, or even in bottled water. There's differences of quality of water, right? So, that for me is really a lifestyle. But I think of people who haven't signed up for that lifestyle yet. Hopefully, this might change their perspective a bit, is that seems like a lot of work, a lot of effort versus maybe being able to take a pill, use a cream, get some Botox. And, you brought up TikTok earlier. We live in a world that is instant gratification. It's like instant now. We want everything done yesterday. And even for myself, one of the, I'm like, it's so much easier for me to go and see my Botox injector nurse for an hour versus maybe trying out face yoga, which I'll be honest, I've never besides maybe doing it once or twice for 25 seconds.
Right.
I've never tried it. So that's why I'm like, that's really not trying face yoga.
Sure.
Do things like that, in your opinion, do things like that work? And I guess the other side of that question would be, we want that instant gratification for that short-term gain, but what is that long-term effect?
Yeah.
What are we treating that for?
Yeah, here's some of the things that we know. Botox is a neurotoxin, and long-term use of that, there's very, very few studies on long-term use of Botox, but I guarantee you it's not going to be constructive. I mean, is it going to be really damaging? I'm not sure. It depends on the person. Just got like implants.
Right.
Some women could live till they're 80 years old and never have a single issue with their implants, and yet some women, it's a major, major stressor to them. So it really is individualized as well. But Botox, we know it's a neurotoxin, and there's potential side effects from that. Fillers, I've seen multiple patients that have had significant immune inflammatory stimulating autoimmune, a lot of different things with fillers. It is a foreign substance that the body's like, crap, what is that? Well, I don't know, but rev up the immune system and let's see if we can get rid of it. But you're also revving up to the immune system to your thyroid or your joints or your pancreas or whatever it is. So there are side effects to everything we do. Even Wegovy, that was the weight loss drug that was approved for weight loss, and it's actually based off of more of a thought process of diabetes and obesity drug is really what that was for, not just weight loss, not for that 5 pounds or 10 pounds. And so they ran out of Wegovy because all these Hollywood stars were taking it. And so then they switched over to Ozempic, which is just approved for type 2 diabetes. It's not approved for weight loss, but they didn't have any of the other ones. So everybody started using that one. And here's what they don't tell you about is even that drug, and you're like, hey, I lost 10 pounds and I'm happy, everything. One, there's no long-term success. So nobody that does that, if they do exactly the same thing, is going to maintain that weight loss if they go off the drug. Number two is it's designed to lower your blood sugar. And the vast majority of people that I see, especially women your age, in their 30s and their 40s, their blood sugar, they're not diabetic. Their blood sugar is actually swinging high and low, high and low, high and low. And this actually makes the lows lower. So, everything we do to our body, we have to look at, hey, is there a give and take, a pro and a con to doing this? And some people, you know what, I got to get into my dress for my daughter's wedding in 2 months. I'm going to take that drug, screw everything else. I'm just going to do it. But then, long term, okay, what do you need to do to fix the why? Because the body really is telling us something.
Right.
Wrinkles, I don't quite know what the wrinkles are telling you. Maybe you relax a little bit.
Not be so Italian. That's what it is for me. It's like I'm so expressive.
You're like, oh my God. And so you're all excited. And you're like, I'm going to be very plain faced. You're like, well, that's not going to be helpful. So what are these things telling us? And you're constipated, and so you have to take magnesium for it, or you've got diarrhea, so you take the one that plugs you up, and yet you're gaining weight, you're tired, then let's take some uppers, some coffee or Red Bull or whatever it is, or you take some downers because you can't get to sleep, so you drink a glass of wine or two at night. Every single one of those symptoms is telling you something about your body and telling you that, hey, I need to make a change.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, and I'm a huge believer, even when you look at what's happening on the outside of your body. Like that is your body's way of communicating with you. And so becoming really in tune, and you raised a really good point about that, is, you know, if you're not able to sleep, like what is actually not in balance within the body, and what is your body trying to tell you? You know, and some of it is food related, some of it is external circumstances around stress in our environment, just even like the chemical toxins that we surround ourselves with. Like, you know, you mentioned Costa Rica before, and that's I think maybe where we had our first conversation. I was still in Costa Rica. I'm in Toronto now, and I can feel the effect of the EMF of the 5G towers, because they are literally everywhere, and I'm not used to it. And so for a couple of weeks, I've had this headache. I feel heavy, you know, and the quick solution would be like, well, I'll have an Advil.
Right.
For me, I use frankincense, but sometimes I get wicked migraines that doesn't even work, you know. But rather than just going, oh, I'm going to pop an Advil, it's like, well, what's changed in my environment? Even the food quality, right? The food quality to what I'm consuming right now is definitely.
How many farms are around Toronto where you're getting fresh food? Not a lot, you know. But it's also even the Wi-Fi. You know, go into your phone and see how many Wi-Fi you can actually pick up around. There's probably 40 different ones, and so and there's just so many different things that we get bombarded with, and that's where, you know, it's not just this one thing. We're not just going to go, you know what, I'm going to turn off my Wi-Fi at night. Well, that's great. You know, that's a place to start. But if you've got 39 other Wi-Fis around you, it may not be that big of a deal. But then you do that, plus you change your water, you know, and you get a whole house filter, or you're doing something different there. Plus you start making sure you're buying organic, and so that you're not getting any glyphosate and Roundup in there. And then you go, okay, I'm going to look into, you know, crunchy makeup or beauty counter or some of these different ones, and I'm going to start making that change. And then I'm going to look into my laundry, and what am I going to do differently there? And so 5, 10, 15, 20 things down the road. Okay, now you're making a difference. Any one thing, probably not. Even just taking out breast implants, probably not the massive game changer that everybody would hope it would be, because now their liver's jacked. It's not detoxifying like it's supposed to. Now that, you know, they've got to clear out some of these. They need some binders. They need some different things to pull out the toxins. You know, now their body has already been triggered into this autoimmune cascade, and it's attacking its own tissue other places, and you got to calm down that. So, you know, getting out of a moldy house, same thing. You know, great, I'm out of the mold. Well, guess what? All of those systems that have already been jacked up and pushed down that path are still triggered, and you've gotten out of that original trigger, but now you've got to fix each individual system that's out of balance.
Totally. So can I ask you, because you brought up Ozempic, you brought up Wegovy, which I don't think we have Wegovy in Canada. I believe that's only in the US still right now. And those are brand names, blanket names, if you will, over peptides. And more I'm hearing it come up as this affluent anti-aging mechanism. When you think of like biohacking and peptides, and you can explain this better than me, the way I understand it is that it is just, it's an amino acid that our body would naturally make. And so whatever you lack in that, this helps to replace that. There's synthetic versions, and there's also natural versions. I don't know how real that is, but that's from what I've studied and what I'm learning, is that there's synthetic and there's also natural. So do you have an opinion on peptides at this point? Because they're still there. I know they've been used in some realms, like for type 2 diabetes for years, but like we're seeing this on like a normalized mainstream market now.
Yeah, absolutely. So in that blood sugar side, so basically the idea with some of those trendy new weight loss drugs, they've been approved for patients with obesity and for patients with type 2 diabetes. Both of those categories of patients are going to have elevated glucose levels probably all the time. They're in the pre-diabetes, diabetes range. Their blood sugar is high all the time. So the intention there is to get more insulin production, help keep food in the digestive tract longer so it doesn't get into the bloodstream as fast. And so keep that there, and then get that blood sugar down when it does get into the bloodstream. So it's secreting more insulin, pulling that down. The problem is that nobody lives in a vacuum. Nobody is just this, I'm sure some friends, some people are taking testosterone, right? You've had women friends take testosterone. I had a woman last week, her testosterone was 268. I like it 40 to 60. At 268, you can't compete as a female.
Right.
So if she was running track, in the Olympics, she could not compete as a female because that testosterone was so high. So nothing is in this bubble. And for one person, that might have been an okay testosterone, injection to give her, a pellet to give her. But for her, it took her through the roof. And now she's getting chin hair and acne and all these other issues. And maybe she feels good for a month or two, but then there's feedback loops that we have to think about. And the body says, oh, we've got enough testosterone. We don't have to stimulate the body to make enough testosterone. And then you got to take more testosterone. And then you don't need to stimulate. And so we've got feedback loops. Anything that we do to the body, it is an amazingly designed, very, very complex system of feedback and stimulation, feedback and stimulation. And so if we do things and do a lot like peptides and start taking these blood sugar drugs and all these different things, there are feedback loops and there's long-term consequences that unless you want to be on something for the next, are you going to live to 120? Like some people say?
No, I'm good at like 90. Like I'm good. It's sitting around that mark.
Okay, so let's say the next 45, 50 years, okay, great. Then you're going to, be on these drugs forever. And they're going to, okay, I'm going to be on testosterone replacement therapy forever. Or I'm going to have to take peptides. I was just at a conference with a couple guys that are in this, that it's not functional medicine, but it's more of a medical-based hormone replacement, peptide replacements, things like that. And I'm like, well, what's the long-term play here? Is your intention to have your patients on these for the rest of their life and just try to find the exact dosage of hormone, to give them the life that they want? And you can kind of tell these guys, that their breast tissue just doesn't quite look right. They're probably at the highest level of testosterone they can do. And okay, they got some big arms and some different things, but I guarantee you there's other systems that are having consequences of just trying to make our body do something and force in certain things.
So if you were on a peptide, like ipamorelin, for example, it's not one of those blanket drugs like the weight loss drugs. My understanding of something like that is it supports like your HGH, so your human growth hormone, supports building on lean muscle mass. It's kind of like that all-inclusive, like kind of everything it helps improve sleep, like everything you would kind of want it to do is found within this peptide.
Yeah.
And so when you think of something like that, is there a positive, or could you go on something like that? Or I shouldn't say go on, but you could use this peptide. You could take a peptide for, call it 3 months, regulate it, where you would have to go through a comprehensive blood panel again to be seeing that what you're hoping to achieve in the body is taking place or coming back into balance and then going off of it, or is starting it really a long-term problem?
Well, I think it comes back to that question of what is somebody's outcome. And if somebody's just looking for a magic pill, maybe they do need to be on that forever, and that's going to be their ultimate game plan, and they're just going to take whatever the next latest and greatest thing out. But what I would encourage each and every person, because taking peptides in and of itself, may not cause any major damage in the body, and there could be benefit to it. Long term, is that a solution? Is that fixing anything? No, because if you did not change your sleep patterns, if you did not change your eating patterns and fix your blood sugar and stabilize it between 85 and 110 all day long, if you did not change your microbiome and get rid of bad stuff because you've been on 28 rounds of antibiotics in your life, and bring in the good stuff and change that whole microbiome, and did not work on your leaky gut and didn't, all these other things, you're still just taking one more Band-Aid. And that's what peptides can be. That's what the Wegovy can be. That's what all these latest and greatest things. It's still a Band-Aid, and sometimes you need a Band-Aid. Like somebody, if they've had Hashimoto's for 20 years and their thyroid's pretty much gone because the immune system has eaten it up, well, you're probably going to need to be on a Band-Aid, which would be levothyroxine or Synthroid. So you're probably going to need to be on that Band-Aid. But you better fix the why you had Hashimoto's in the first place.
Right.
And that's what I encourage anybody doing, so filler's a little bit different, maybe you're just born with smaller lips or whatever.
I was.
But yes. So when you start thinking about, when you start thinking about looking at replacing certain things like HGH and testosterone and other hormones and different things, okay, why are they low in the first place? Let's work on that. And if you still want to take some stuff, okay, that's fine. And if there's consequences from taking that, you better be prepared for that. But don't just go in with that anticipation that this is my magic, oh, great, fountain of youth, and I'm going to take these injections every month for the rest of my life, and I'm going to live to 120. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. No, I mean, and you did say it, like if you're not committed to actually changing yourself, even if, you take a Band-Aid, the outcome is usually not what you're hoping it for, and then it's easy, and this is just human nature, but oftentimes we blame the doctor, we blame the drug, we blame all of these other circumstances when really it's because you weren't committed to the outcome you were actually wanting, and nothing comes without effort. You have to put in the time,
Wow.
So, well, I mean, it's a fascinating conversation. And I am, like I said, I have been probably for the last 3 months, this notion of peptides keep coming up. And I'm like looking at it as, yes, is it this next level of biohacking? And truthfully, like I've considered it for myself, and I'm still considering it. And I don't know where
Here's what I would do. I would run blood work, look at all your systems, see what's out of balance, what's working, what's not. And if you do the peptides, okay, then you do another 3-month follow-up, and then another 3-month follow-up, and you monitor and you track, because that's what true science, biohacking is all about science, and it's about your personal science. And how do you know that? Well, do you have your continuous glucose monitor on? Are you checking your sleep? Are you checking your blood pressure? What's your heart rate doing? Are you tracking your exercise and seeing, hey, I can actually do the same amount of exercise, but at a lower heart rate level? Now I'm actually getting in better fitness. I ran my blood work markers, and my inflammatory markers are lower, and my hormones are actually a little bit higher, and I actually feel good, and there's no negative side effects that I can see. Okay, let's do it again, and go for another round, and then retest. And so if you're biohacking, if you're trying, if you're experimenting, which is basically what it is, because we don't know how it's going to affect you versus somebody else, you've got to take that on, or work with a professional that is going to help you and take you by the hand and go, okay, you know what, let's track and figure out, even if you're not going to change anything, but let's at least make sure you're not getting worse.
Totally. And I think you just said a very key and important word, and that is track. This should be, I think, if you're in anything really you're doing around your health, it should be intentional, and therefore you should be monitoring it and tracking it. And, I can't recall if we chatted about this the last time, but you know, I am crazy about tracking all the things. Yes, I have my watch on right now. I have my Aura ring for my sleep. I have my glucose. I'm getting the patch one, the monitor, but I have one that I can do the blood prick, you know, in my finger, which I'm happy to share with you. I'm 87. So when you said between 85 to 111, I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm at 87. You know, so I'm very much like, I want to know so that I'm not just literally throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing if it sticks. Because doing that with your body can be so harmful. And that's not, for me, worth the risk of, like, you really should be paying attention and understanding what it is you're doing to your body. What are you putting in your body? And yeah, like you said, you know, a 3-month cycle, I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, and tracking in the meantime while you're doing, you know, this biohack, as opposed to looking for a Band-Aid solution, because those are two different states. Those are two different mindsets.
There's a famous biohacker in the space right now, and I think he's maybe 6 months or a year older than me, and he literally looks 60. And I'll tell you who it is once we're done. And I don't want to say anything, you know, but it's like, okay, you know, one, is that because of all these things you're trying, you know, trial and errors in yourself, you know, or is it just because, you know, he's traveling every week and flying all over the place and living a stressed lifestyle and doing all those things? We don't know. But just because you're doing a lot of the stuff that people say should be helpful, should be good for biohacking, should be good for anti-aging, all that, doesn't mean it's good for you. And that's what you've got to dig deep into. Is it, you know, it really does come down to personalized medicine. And personalized medicine means, hey, let's do a big workup, make changes, track it, look at more blood work, look at more, you know, with our patients. That's why we do a continuous glucose monitor with every single one of them. And the things that we've seen with that, every one of our patients get a 3-month supply included with our care. And so, I mean, we've seen literally thousands and thousands of patients and hundreds of thousands of meals and days. And what does that blood sugar do? And it's fascinating, because in my blood sugar book, I don't give a diet, a menu, a meal plan, anything, because it's way more individualized. I'd be lying if I said, here's the magic stabilize your blood sugar diet. Because it is totally individualized. And for you versus the next person I talk to, you know, rice could do something totally different with them. They could be able to eat strawberries, and the other person can't eat strawberries. So it just really depends on how the body responds.
And the glucose monitoring that you guys offer at F8, is that something that you could do online? Like, could I order your tracker and then we would do like virtual kind of check-ins, or how does that work?
So the way that the CGMs are set up is that they're prescription only. And so we have to be able to actually get those shipped from the pharmacy. And our deal setup is that we have to be overseeing somebody's medical condition. So we need to be doing weekly appointments. We need to be, you know, working through with that person. There are some outlets out there where you can just go and buy it, and, you know, and online and do some different things and just use it as a tracking device. We have it set up because the patients that we see, yes, some of them just want to biohack and life extension and all those things, but most have some type of a chronic condition that they need help and support with. So we take them by the hand and show them exactly why that's going up, why it's going down, and what you need to do differently.
So you're Denver based, am I correct in saying that, in Colorado?
So we've got a Denver office, and then Fort Collins as well, which is about an hour north of Denver. And then we have the Nashville location.
And Nashville. I didn't know that. Okay. So there you go, you guys. If you are in any one of those 3 areas, make sure you make an appointment. I'm going to be connecting.
And I'll tell you this, we work remotely, probably 70% of our patients, but we've actually got it figured out now Canada, and we're able to, our Canadian neighbors were able to get into Dynacare and some of the different labs, get drop ship a lab kit, get our extensive lab, and then send it back to the States to get tested. And we can get CGMs to Canada. We can get our home feedback units, supplements, everything. So yeah, we're pretty excited to be able to help our Canadians.
Kind of a no excuse zone. It's kind of what I'm hearing, right? No excuse.
I mean, Denver and Nashville, two great places to visit. So we get people, I mean, they fly in and drive in from all over. But for those of you that's just not realistic, yeah, absolutely. We have patients from all over the world.
Cool. Well, I love that. And I also, so I want to just like shift, not a little bit, but I think this is kind of a great segue when we're talking about personalized healthcare, like for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big lover of frequency medicine. You know, you see, I've got one of my Healy devices on, which is just a frequency device. And I think a lot of people today think like, oh, this is new age, this is new, but really, like, even going, you know, not forever long ago, but even Einstein talks a lot around the future medicine will be the medicine of frequencies. And it's really more about returning to ancient wisdom, if you will, and more ancient practices that we're starting to see being brought into mainstream culture today, at least in the West. And I would love to just kind of get your perspective on that. You know, even Nikola Tesla, you know, talks about if you want to find the secrets of the universe, you got to think in terms of energy and frequency and vibration. Mm-hmm. And this carries through to helping us bring the body back into balance. At least for me, it does. So I'd love to, you know, get your thoughts on some of this.
Yeah, absolutely. The frequency generators, they've been around for a long time. People have been working on ways to, there's different people in the United States that have been arrested, that have been shut down. They've been making machines that can help fight cancer and all types of different conditions. And you know, some of the powers that be didn't like that, and they went in and said, hey, you know, we're not going to allow this, you know, and some of it is they can't even really explain it. You know, it goes back even to the 1800s. There was something called homeopathy, and there was full-on homeopathic medical schools, and these homeopaths, they came out of England. And they gave, if you've seen those little, like they'll give them to kids for ear infections, and Highlands has some, there's these little homeopathics. If you look at them, they're actually dilutions. And what's fascinating is that 1x, 2x, 3x, you actually take 10 drops of, you know, so you put, you know, like 1 drop of onion into 1 drop of water, and you take a dropper full and you take 10 drops of that, dilute it, or 1 drop and put it into 10 drops of water, and you dilute it down, and then you take 1 drop of that and put it into 10 more drops, and keep diluting, and you'll get down at its Avogadro's number at 23 times of doing that dilution. There is no longer any substance that you can find of that onion.
Wow.
And yet homeopathy works every single day. You go to any health food store and there's homeopathic remedies all the time. And there's a lot of them, when they're high enough potency, have no actual onion or whatever, you know, if you're using it for allergies, you know, some kind of a pollen or whatever it is. Right. And so this has been around for hundreds of years. And unfortunately, it was squashed. You go back to 1910, and there was some really high-powered families in the United States, Rockefeller, some different people that said, hey, you know what? We are going to want more of a systematized medical model, one where we get pharmaceutical medications that are oil-based, and we can control what's being put out to the masses. Right now, you've got these homeopathic medical schools, you've got DOs, doctor of osteopathy, you've got chiropractors, you've got all these different contingencies. So we're going to condense it down into, this is the funding, you know, and they had millions and millions and millions of dollars, which was a lot back then. This funding finding that this is going to be the model that we prefer. And that's still to this day, it has to be, research based, and it has to be approved by who's paying for the research is the pharmaceutical companies and all these different things. And so everything else got kind of pushed to the wayside.
Right.
Herbs, homeopathy, physical medicine, DOs basically evolved and turned into a traditional medical doctor. And so this isn't conspiracy theory stuff. This is just how it went down. Yeah. And that's just where we are right now. So when you talk about what you're wearing right now and that frequency generation, can it change? Think about our brain. When we do a brain map, we're able to see that your brainwave pattern is a frequency. Right. And if it's too high, if it's going too fast in a certain wave, you're going to have anxiety. If it's too low in another certain wave, you're going to have more ADD type symptoms.
Right.
And so you can change those frequencies. And the cool part is that you can do it even on your own, or use a machine, or be reminded or encouraged. And that's, for us, that's neurofeedback, changing those brainwave patterns. For that, you can use eye therapy, and it's flashing lights. Right. So many different ways you can change those frequencies. And ultimately, the brain is our best frequency modulator, frequency generator. Mm-hmm. And so that's why people that are, chronic meditators, chronic as that they have changed the frequency of their brainwave. And every time you sit down, and every time you're thankful, every time you do your gratitude journal, every time you pray, every time you commune with divine, all these different things, you are changing your frequency. And every time you watch crap, you're watching, the social media, and that's where most people find me now, social media. But I log in all the time. So you're watching social media, and you're feeling that pressure. We were talking about, hey, I need filler. I need filler. It's interesting when you think about what actually, when we're talking about aging, what causes aging, and actually the shortening of our genetics, of our genetic tissue. There was a great book, I'm drawing the blank on it, but they were talking about like the top 8 or 9 different things that cause us to shorten our telomeres. Have you heard of telomeres?
No.
Yeah. So telomeres. So the shorter they are, the more aging you have. And so some of them were obvious things like smoking and drinking and things like that. But one of them, which was, I still am fascinated to this point, was they found that people that worried and stressed about what their actual mission in life is, what they're here for, they actually age faster by like, man, why did God put me on this planet? What is my goal of being here? What's my perfect job? Why am I not, succeeding in life? And I've got to figure out what that perfect, that actually causes you to age more than all these other things. It was really fascinating. So.
And I'll get that book from you offline, and then I can include it in the show notes, because that would be such a powerful read, to really be understanding that, and it's true. I think always, and talk about a Band-Aid, we've talked about that a lot already, it is so important to first start with your mind, right? Mm-hmm. Around how you can change your state, how you can change your energy, how you can raise your vibration, your frequency. And you gave some great examples earlier. And that's the first step, because again, if you just throw on something like this and you run a frequency, if this isn't instead of, for me, this is in addition to, and it really helps for me it supports already the path that I'm on and what I am trying to either bring into balance, what I'm trying to manifest, what I'm trying to, put forth. And this in particular with the Healy, what I really love, which is very different to a lot of the other machines, like there's the Rife machine, which you need to go see a practitioner. It's a bigger machine. It's not easily mobile, which you can see here.
It might be illegal in some.
Yeah, it might be legal in some countries. Exactly. In like some places, so you have those kind of hurdles, whereas this is, fits in your palm and you can easily bring it through the airport, on the plane, in your car, as you're cleaning your house. You know, it's very mobile. But a lot of the other ones are even like Brain Tap. Talk about, you know, the brain. I've used that for many years, and it's a great tool, but there's two setbacks to it. One, you need to know what issue you want to address, because it doesn't have the capability to scan to tell you. So I have to tell it what I want to run, which sometimes there's a shot in the dark. Sometimes I kind of know like what I'm wanting to do. If if I'm more anxious, if I have anxiety, I can easily run that program.
Yeah.
But then I also need to sit there with my eyes closed for like however long the program is, whether it's 20 minutes, an hour, sometimes some of them are 90 minutes. And, you know, no different than with the Healy, the programs in length are about the same, but I don't need to have my eyes closed. And so this was one of the game changers for me, was it has the ability to actually do a scan on a physical level, on an emotional level, and on an energetic level. Mm-hmm. And I love it as another thing in my toolbox, in my life box, where I can start my morning before I go into meditation, before I go into my gratitude practice and journaling and praying and all of that. I just do an energetic scan. What's off in my body? You know, what chakra is off? Is it in my head? Is it in my throat? Is it in my heart? I bring that back into balance, and then I go into my morning practices. And so that's a really effective way to combining. It's like, it's almost like you've got like this partner with you who's like your champion in supporting whatever it is you're wanting to do. I'm even able to I can actually write out an intention, and it will run it against my subconscious to show me like, where are my own limiting beliefs? Where are the blocks? You know, so I could say, for example, I'm so happy and grateful now that $100,000 months are my norm, or $10,000 months are my norm. And I can run that, and it's going to tell me where the issues with like maybe my father is, family members, my own limiting beliefs. And I can run that vibration to help clear that, so that then I can move forward with carrying out that intention of what I'm wanting to manifest. So I think it's a very, very powerful tool in that way, but it's not in replacement of still doing the work on yourself. You know, and it can work on your meridians 1 and 2. So there's a lot of stuff around like your organs and blood circulation, all of this kind of stuff. So it's really, really fascinating, I think, where and how, you know, the energetic field is migrating to. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's really exciting that it's finally coming into what I would call like mainstream, conversations.
And I think you hit it on the head, is that, and yet that's not going to overcome a poor diet. That's not going to overcome, a previous, traumatic childhood that you never worked through with therapy or different things. It's not going to overcome, a long COVID, chronic infection type thing that, it's going to help support and nourish. Just like, we've got, what kind of sauna do you guys have?
I mean, we have both, but I like infrared, dry.
So I figured you got multiple. So, it's like, okay, you get in your sauna for certain things. My wife's got the red light, kind of a tanning bed red light thing over the door, and she'll, get her vitamin D that way in the winter. And, does that overcome, poor sleep for boosting your immune system? No, that's not gonna fix that. But, each and every one of these tools that are available out there have great benefit, and you moving your feet has great benefit as well. Just like, so many people are getting into genetics, and they're like, oh my gosh, what's this? You've got this genetic SNP, and so you got to take this magnesium because you don't process your magnesium. And I'm like, well, that's fine. But if you've got SIBO, if you've got H. pylori, if you've got candida in your gut, there's no amount of magnesium that's going to fix that. So it's this combo. And just like, if you run a business, you're never just looking at, what was our revenue for the month?
Right.
You know, if you are, you're not going to get very far.
You got to look at the expenses and
You're not going to make it, that long at that level. Are you looking at KPIs and scoreboards and
Mhm.
cards? And are you looking at, every month I'm looking at my bank account just to pick out those little things. Oh,
Totally.
there's a $120 thing that we're not even using that, ClickFunnels
Yeah.
anymore, or whatever it is. And, you've got to keep looking through all those things. So as much as you're looking into data and stats and everything in your business, and you could tell me, your close rate for this or your sign up rate for that or whatever, that's what you need to be telling us about your body as well.
Right.
And you go, okay, what was your vitamin D last time you tested it?
Well, higher than it, I don't know what the actual number was, but it's higher than it normally is. Like, I mean, most people think they're good with vitamin D and they're not, they're deficient. But because of that, probably for about a year and a half, I've really been almost doubling like my normal dose. And then of course, like living in Costa Rica, just being in the sun has also really helped.
We hope that that's not, but again, you got to be tracking that. And just like your blood sugar, tell me 5 meals that you're 100% positive are going to keep your blood sugar steady and not go over 110.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and this is something like I'm learning. This
and
is on
you'll be able to once you get your CGM.
That, yes, as well, because I very much already kind of eat like a keto lifestyle. So, and I really don't eat refined sugars. I don't have a sweet tooth, so I'm not consuming desserts and that sort of thing. But there's a disconnect, and I know the spike is happening. And so I've been really intentional over the last, I'm going to say like month to 5 weeks around making sure I'm actually having a substantial amount of protein at every single meal and starting with that first versus, maybe starting with like the veggie first and having more of like, even though it's a veg, it's still a carb. A lot of people don't realize that. And trying to get the protein to be the first thing that I'm starting to metabolize versus a carb that's coming into my body.
Yeah. And that's what you're going to be able to see once you get that CGM on. You're going to be able to see, okay, hey, if I eat this meal, what happens to it? If I eat this meal with a little bit more fat, what happens to it? If I eat this meal with butternut squash, what happens to it? And that's how you get to figure out exactly how to stabilize that blood sugar. My dad had a couple stents put in his heart. His dad had a heart attack, and so my brother, he's getting ready to turn 50 this year. He is, sending me all these, all these podcasts and all these articles about, hey, this guy says you're supposed to get your total cholesterol down to 120. And I'm like, wow, that seems pretty extreme. Is that it? Is that all you have to do is just get your cholesterol down to 120 and you're not going to have a heart attack? That's not the whole story. Maybe there's some research showing that, but that's not fixing the why. That's not giving your body that best chance to be healthy. And so, we can assume certain things, or is keto the best way for you to eat? Well, I don't know. Let's run your blood work. Let's track your blood sugar. Look at your sleep. Some people, if they're in ketosis, it can actually throw their sleep off, and they don't sleep as well. And so, again, there is no perfect diet. There is no perfect way to, when to eat, how to eat, all those things. But there's a really good way for you to do those things.
Totally. And I mean, it comes back to putting that dedication of tracking. So that you do have a good insight as to like what is going on. And like you said too earlier, like regulating it, because what works right now could change in 6 months from now. Your body's constantly evolving, your energy is constantly changing. And so you have to continue. It's not like I just started doing this one thing and then that's going to be the correct thing for the rest of life. It's like, no, like your body also plateaus because it gets used to certain things. So
levels change, there you got different seasons in your life. All that stuff plays a role.
Yeah, big time. Well, Dr. Ben, I feel like, and I'm so happy that you came back on because I feel like you and we could just Joe Rogan this and just keep talking forever and ever. I love it.
4 hours here, come on.
Well, I think obviously this is your life work, and I'm obviously very passionate about it, which makes it easy, to speak with somebody who's not in the medical field for me. Like, I think this is why I could just talk about it forever, because I'm fascinated by it. It's a huge importance for me in my life. And want to respect your time too. So I appreciate you coming back on today. Is there any kind of closing thought? I asked you the Freedom CEO question the last time that I kind of close out with. So, I'd love to just turn it over to you if you have anything left unsaid that maybe you want to share.
Yeah, especially when we're coming from that entrepreneur mindset, that CEO mindset, and it's so easy to give almost our entire life away to that dream, to that vision, to that business, to that, oh my gosh, we're this close to having the success we want. And then when we get that success we want, we've got to hold on to it because, that next person's going to come and take it away from us and everything. And, that's all well and good, but without a balance and without focusing on your health and without looking at your numbers and tracking and being able to be there for your family and having the energy when you go home at the end of the day to play with your kids or whatever your life looks like, you can't go back and just go, you know what, those 10 years of me feeling, run down and just surviving, you can't get those back. And the last thing you want to do is get to that day. It's all going to come, whether that's at 120 or that's like 90 like you, or that's, maybe it's 63 like me and I get run over by a bus or a grizzly bear eats me or whatever it is, when that day comes, you don't want to look back and go, man, I made it through. I accomplished those goals, but I felt like crap. I slept like crap. I was on the toilet 10 times a day. I never, I wasn't able to focus. I wasn't able to give my kids the attention that they needed, or my spouse. I got divorced because I blew it all for that company. And great, I met my goals, and that I've got lots of money. But if your health goes, and if you don't, who cares about living to 120?
Right. Yeah.
If you're optimal health, if you're not living a great life and feeling amazing, I don't want to live to be 120.
Totally. Yeah.
So put the time and energy in as much as you put into what you're thinking about for that next quarter or whatever it is. Think about that for your health, and think about, okay, man, what if I did even have more energy? And what if my brain was clear? What if I didn't have this pain, this inflammation? What could I accomplish then?
Mm-hmm.
If you have to go from that type A perspective, think about it, of what you're missing out on. So, just take action, do something, keep learning. And health is one of those things you will never regret being too healthy. Absolutely.
Amen to that. What a powerful sentence. You will never regret being too healthy. Dr. Ben Galyardt, thank you so much. Really appreciate, again, your time and just the wisdom that you bring. So
absolutely.
We'll have you back. Definitely.
See you next time, everybody.
Thanks for tuning into the Freedom CEO podcast. If you got value out of today's show, I would love for you to leave a review, as it will help my show reach other people as well. You know what to do. Download this episode, click the like and subscribe button. If you feel like spreading more love, hop over to Instagram and share today's show in your stories. Remember to tag Shane Vidiata and the Freedom CEO. My DMs are always open, so drop me a line. I'd love to connect. Until next time, keep owning your decisions to live a life of freedom. Live a life you love.